As I take it out and bring it back in again, just listen to what goes on. Something we often ask ourselves when mixing is, how do I get this tight? How do I get this solidified kind of tight sound that is just going to work in every scenario? And I personally feel like it's down to 3 steps. And these 3 steps are kind of applicable to a load of different situations, but it's just 3 things you have to think about. And before you think about those, it all just seems kind of a mystery. So let's jump into them straight away. 3 processing tips and 1, I guess it's 3.5, 1 before you can get to that point. Let's check it out. So the 1 before you get to that point, first off, we're dealing with a metal guitar track here, and I'm going to show you what it sounded like before any processing and then after processing. So here it is. So before you start processing, you've got to get your takes tight. You've got to get everything sounding right in the first place, everything tight, not necessarily to the grid, but to each other. And you can check out a tutorial that I've done at the top on using the groove track in Logic Pro, because this is a great way to get everything to lock to one track. Not to go into it too much now, but just check it out at the top. So the 3 kind of processing chains we've got here. First of all, I'm using all pulsar plugins here because I just love them. There's no 2 ways about it. They're fantastic. They're kind of a, I don't know if they're hidden. They're kind of a hidden gem in that not a lot of people talk about them in the day-to-day stuff, but yeah, they're absolutely mind-blowing. I'm using 3 plugins here. The first one is the 8200. This is an EQ and a very, very good EQ at that. The second one is kind of new. This is the IPA 25, and you're going to see what's going on here in a moment. And then thirdly, we've got Massive, which is just a fantastic sound EQ. I'm using them all for different reasons. So the first one is really to tighten stuff up. This is really to just remove some of that rumble in the low end. And we need to do that before we move on to the next step. And the second one in the IPA 25 is something you may not have really realized you can do, but it makes things just so much easier. So here's the first one. This is just removing some of that bottom end. So let's just take the other plugins out of the equation first of all, bring it out, bring it in. And what you can hear is just that when it's in, it just sounds right. When it's without it, it just sounds a bit blobby, a bit kind of wrong. So without it first, and then we'll bring it in. Now, this is a subtle one, and you can be as aggressive as you want with this. Now, a high-pass filter at 65 Hz is admittedly not doing a massive amount to guitars because that low end, I mean, drop C sharp here, but it's still not really featuring that much. You can bring that up, but this needs to be your first step. So let's just move that around and see what we can get. Just tightening things a small amount. And that is really essential to this. You need to have this tightening because in the next steps, we're going to be boosting some frequencies, and you'll see, especially with the Massive, what you boost isn't necessarily what gets boosted, which is interesting. But that's where I'm going to leave it for this one to start off with. We may come back to it, but I just need to tighten up that bottom end. Now with the IPA 25, okay, this is interesting, because I've got this sidechain EQ, I've got a boost in here. What this is doing is, obviously we've got the compressor, but with the sidechain EQ, this is either reducing frequencies or turning frequencies up into the compressor. So for example, if I turn this sidechain EQ off, watch how much is actually getting reduced. Absolutely nothing. When I turn the sidechain EQ on, so what is that doing? Well, it's EQing, but it's only EQing for the attention of the compressor. We are not just turning the bottom end up overall. We're turning the low end up in the kind of signal that the compressor hears. So it's the sidechain, and we're dealing with exactly what the compressor is dealing with, and exactly what the compressor is going to kind of be affected by. So by putting this sidechain EQ and by boosting up in the resonant frequency of that chug, what we're essentially doing is telling the compressor to listen to that frequency more. And by doing so, what that's doing is then compressing just on those chugs. And it's going to tighten things up drastically. If I leave that on, play the track, I'll take the compressor out first of all and then bring it in, and you're going to hear that chugginess just go from like blobby nonsense into tightness. Okay, so I don't think that's perfect yet. I think there's a little bit of fine tuning we can do here, and we can kind of play around with the release. I tend to favor having a shorter release on this and probably a shorter attack as well, just to get it so that it's really coming down straight away. We can bring the ratio up so we're getting a little more compression, adjust the threshold. But something I also want to take a look at is the look ahead and look behind function. So just take a listen. If I just go a little bit extreme on this, a little bit more, and take a look at this look behind and look ahead and just see what's going on. So we're kind of altering exactly, again, how the compressor hears stuff. And this IPA25 is fantastic for giving you loads and loads of different features that you can manipulate. And the little bubble pops up and tells you what's going on. So in look ahead mode, values between -20 and 0. So that's to the left. It acts a bit ahead of time. So what that means is that it anticipates what's going on. So anything over to the left, it's kind of already heard it before you hear it. It's just got a little buffer. So what that's saying is that it's going to be super, not exact, but it's going to be a little more aggressive, I guess. It's going to know what's coming along, so it's going to counteract it, and it's going to automatically clamp down straight away. When we bring it to the right-hand side, it's a little bit late. So that means that the transient is going to come through just a little bit. It's separate from the attack, but it just means that it's got a little more room to breathe. And this is a great tip for any drums, any kind of real staccato stuff, whether it's chuggy guitars or whatever it is. Your look behind and your look ahead is really, really useful because you can affect how the compressor hears stuff without affecting your attack and release. And Pulsar use this on a lot of their plugins. They've got it on the Mew compressor. They've got it on the IPA25. They've got it on a few of their products on the 1178 as well. And it's not something that you kind of see as standard with all that many compressors, but it's very, very useful. These guys really take the idea of a sidechain and they don't just give you a high pass filter, they give you absolutely everything. It's fantastic. So this is going to be useful, and I'm just going to kind of leave it where it is at the moment. I may tweak it a little bit, but importantly what we're doing is we're cleaning up the bottom end and then we're cleaning up the chugs. We're really compressing just that bottom end. And then Massive comes in and just blows everyone's mind with its amazing EQ. So what I'm doing here is creating width and creating clarity. This is the real star of the show. This one is adding so much brightness, so much attack, so much clarity. And as I take it out and bring it back in again, just listen to what goes on. Okay, I'm going overboard on this because I love it. It adds a crispness, and importantly, this is quite bright. And when I say quite bright, I mean it's very bright. But this is the kind of brightness that needs to come through a mix. When we're adding, what we've got here, like 10 dB at the top end, and it's kind of the super top end here, which we'll go into in a minute. If you're doing that on any normal plugin, then you just get brash, aggressive nastiness. But doing it on the Massive, it's a passive style EQ. So it's not aggressive, it's very smooth. And in this particular case, we're actually spreading these high frequencies out to the sides. So down the bottom here, we've got left and right or mid side. If we were in left and right, then this is the left channel, this is the right channel. In mid side, this is the mid channel for M, this is the side channel. So you can see I'm actually leaving the high frequencies alone in the mid channel, And then in the side channel, I'm just bringing them up. So not only are we getting brightness, we're getting width. And as well as that, what I'm doing is I'm taking out some of the low end, or a significant amount of the low end in the sides, and leaving it just alone in the mid channel. So what we're doing here is we're saying high frequencies come out to the sides, low frequencies get out of the sides and come into the middle. And that creates that width. That creates this larger than life kind of sound. And this is the third step, because it's about tonal shaping. But before that, it's about correcting what's wrong. Now, this isn't the best tone in the world to start off with. This is just a throw on like a mesa kind of sound and be done with it. It's about what you can do afterwards. And it's about knowing the steps that you need to go through. Arguably, if I were to put on this massive plugin, let's do it. If I were to just put on massive without any of this stuff beforehand, it wouldn't sound the same. So this is just with massive on, without the EQ and without the compressor, and we'll take it out and in again. It's got that top end crispiness, but the bottom end is just kind of flabby. It's just kind of everywhere. When we start then bringing this in, if we just bring the IPA in and out again, it just tightens up. And this threshold is basically our control for how much we want to compress that low frequency. So if I bring it up like crazy amounts, we're going so overboard with that. If we bring it all the way down, it's much tighter, and you can see it's just coming in on the chugs, just coming in on that low end where you need it. So 3 steps to creating tightness in guitars, or kind of 3.5 steps. First of all, either play it right or get it all locked into each other first of all. That should be a given. The first step really though is tighten stuff up. Take out that low end that you don't need. And then something like the IPA 25 is fantastic. There's links to all these down in the bottom, but this compressor has just got so many different kinds of sounds in it. I've done a review of it at the top now, because I can't go into how much there is now. There's just too much. There's different kinds of gain reduction circuits. Yeah, mind blowing. So check it out. And then the Massive is one of my favorite EQs, because it's kind of, it's one of those that you can do twice as much to without it sounding like you're doing twice as much. If you add 8 dB on a regular EQ, it takes your ears off. If you do it on the Massive, it still sounds bright, but it doesn't quite sound as aggressive. And one interesting thing about this, if I just put another one on for a moment, just so you can kind of see what's going on. If you add a load of top end, then that's basically what you add. But if you add a load of bottom end, then you actually affect this area as well. It's a passive EQ. It's not meant to be absolutely precise, and it's worth jumping into this one because you can get some unbelievably unique sounds. And I'm not going to get into the way that passive EQs operate right now, but they're interesting. They don't boost stuff. They just turn that frequency down and boost everything around it. Kind of a story for another day. But check these plugins out now. They're down below in the description. Pulsar, French company, absolutely fantastic. They make some killer plugins that you should get to know very, very well. I'll see you again soon. Take care.